Alright, what's going on, boys and girls? So this particular video, as you can tell from the title, is Linux users are crazy. 5 paradoxes of the FOSS world. This is infinitely galactic. I like a lot of his content. This is just, I get slagged a lot for, oh, I don't like anybody. Actually, I like a lot of his content. It's very, very good. Unlike a lot of the bigger guys. This is someone the community should be following and listening to more often. So the title caught my eye, so I'm curious to see what he has to say. So let's react to it.
Linux users are crazy, and I mean that in the best possible way. So today, we're going to be unpacking some of the 5 biggest paradoxes that I've experienced in the Linux and free and open source software world. Come on board for a good old time, and I want to just put it out there right at the start. I include myself in this as well, so if you start getting all offended, I'm offended too. Let's do this. Okay, so there are a bunch of crazy paradoxes that I find out there in the Linux world, in the free and open source software world, where it just doesn't make sense. And people on the outside looking in kind of wonder what we're on about a lot of the time. Now, I'm not talking about the ethos of free and open source software or anything like that. I'm just talking about weird inconsistencies, almost hypocrisies between what we love to see in the free and open source software world and how we actually behave. So here are some of these paradoxes. And the big one, the number one, I'm just going to get straight to the top of the list, is fragmentation. You hear about fragmentation everywhere in the Linux desktop world at the very least. Now, as we all know, there are a bunch of different choices out there with free software. One of the biggest boons of free software is the fact that there is so much choice. However, this also means a lot of fragmentation. So many users bemoan how fragmented the Linux world is, and outsiders looking in will go, Linux on the desktop will never succeed because it is so fragmented. But on the other hand, you have Linux users who are, and I think everybody in the comment section would agree, we are the fussiest people to please on planet Earth because we know we can change anything and everything about Linux, especially on the desktop with how we interact with it every day. So what does this lead to? It leads to us complaining about desktop fragmentation in the Linux world, and it also leads to us saying that our preference, our choice, the way that we have chosen to set up and run our Linux desktop is the way to go. You get hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of those combinations, and wow, all of a sudden we have fragmentation. This is the ultimate paradox of the open source world. We have the ability to change anything and everything, and so we do. If it doesn't suit you, fork it. And there's a number of ways that this plays out that I'm quickly going to drop out there. We need more centralized applications because the desktop is so fragmented that it's too hard for developers to make applications for every different distribution. Okay, let's come up with, I don't know, Flatpaks. Let's come up with snap packages, maybe app images. Yeah, but see, I prefer the performance and the stability and the elegance of my distribution's native package manager. Ladies and gentlemen, we have fragmentation. Okay, here's number 2. Privacy. Privacy is a big deal in the tech world today.
So to his point, the whole mentality of like my way is the right way, and so it should be everybody's way. It is very much a paradox. Snaps or app images or whatever your choice of package manager you want to take, you end up with this my way is the only right way and everybody else's way is stupid. No, that's not how it works. It's the right way for some people, not all people. A lot of the Linux people like to talk about choice, but when it comes push to shove and people make the choice, they don't like that choice, then they end up, essentially trying to force feed their choice and trying to justify their reasons. Have your reasons, use what you use, but that's not gonna be the reasons other people use what they use. So this is where I take issue with certain other bigger YouTubers where they're, oh well, my way's the right way kind of thing. No, use what works for you. If if you want to experiment, experiment. So, to his point, whine, bitch, and complain. that's that's really what it is. Is you know people we talk about again we talk about choice, and this is like the double-edged hypocrisy that I always talk about. Like legit, if you're gonna complain about somebody else's decision that they find is the better decision for them, why are you taking away their freedom? Because you think yours is a better one. Then that makes you no better than Microsoft, no better than Apple or Google, and you're nothing but, quite frankly, a fucking hypocrite.
And Linux users are probably more aware of the issues relating to privacy than others. And so when a operating system or a developer comes out with a particular piece of software that does not seem transparently privacy aware, we tend to poo-poo all over it. So a lot of Linux users absolutely hate Windows 10 with a passion because of the telemetry and other privacy invasive things that are enabled by default. We also really went nuts when Ubuntu included telemetry and Amazon affiliate links into their operating system by default because it was an invasion on our privacy. And yet, on the other hand, if we're all being honest in the real world,
So let's talk about that Ubuntu, including Amazon stuff in the. I gave two craps. I uninstalled it personally. What I cared personally for me, what I cared about was the implementation. The implementation was garbage. It's one thing to add a good service or a good idea, but the service and the idea have to be good. And unfortunately, the problem with Canonical's way of doing it was it was just a garbage way. Like I didn't care about the invasiveness of it, and I think that was a lot of people's take is that the implementation was the problem, and I think that was a fair criticism because why, if I'm searching for music, am I getting stuff that has no correlation or relation to it? You know, why, if I'm searching Wonderwall or something for music, am I getting Wonder Bras and all the other crap? You know, this stupid crap like that, where it's like, just because it's a word correlation is dumb. So I think that's a fair criticism. But to your point, this is another area of hypocrisy that I find in the Linux community. This isn't a paradox. This is just, I'm just gonna call it hypocrisy for what it is. If you're gonna complain about one service or provider doing this, then oh well, we left Windows 10 because privacy, and then you come to Linux and privacy is your thing. I respect that, but don't jump on every said social media platform that you have to register for or log into more than privacy invasive Google or Apple or Microsoft, or insert social media company platform. It's hypocrisy. That's what all it is.
world, we almost all of us carry an Android phone that is far more invasive and privacy killing than any other device we could possibly own. And nearly all of us have a Google account, so at the very least we can comment on this YouTube video below and tell me how wrong I am. And let's not even get started on Facebook, Spotify, Office accounts, and literally everything else that we have as digital users in the internet today. And even those of us who have seen the light and ended up buying an iPhone because it's more privacy aware, yep, Apple still owns your life as well. So privacy is a great thing. Definitely go and secure your browsers, lock away your children and your wife. Whew, I'm gonna get in trouble for that one. Use Firefox and a VPN and you'll be all right. By the way, stick around to the end of the video for a quick word from today's sponsor. All right,
And to his point, like, do what you can to secure your life. Worry about your life. And don't force feeding other people's stuff. Force feeding your stuff makes you I'm just gonna be blunt. Makes you no better than the. people want to complain about the holy rollers and the Jehovah Witnesses that knock on your door and try force feeding, Latter Day Saint and all the other any religion down your throat. You guys are no better at times. So oh, I don't want that forced down my throat. Well, I don't want your beliefs forced down my throat because you think that's the right way for computing for everybody when it's only the right way for computing for you. Novel concept.
Proprietary licensing. This is paradox number 3. As Linux users, most of the time we will only accept a new project if it includes some version of free and open source licensing, so it can be reused, the code can be analyzed. If it doesn't suit you, fork it. Now, this example that I'm about to make came out of a conversation that I had with Martin Wimpress a few weeks ago. Definitely go and check the link in the cards to go check out that conversation. But here is my example. So, Canonical, as a company that is trying to make Linux work on the desktop for over 15 years now, comes up with a very convenient way for people to create packages and develop their own applications for the Ubuntu desktop. They are commonly known as PPAs. And they have Launchpad.net as a way that developers can streamline their packages, publish them for the Ubuntu desktop, and away we go. However, a lot of people complained that when PPAs and Launchpad.net were first launched as a platform that they weren't open source and they weren't able to be forked and analyzed and all that kind of thing. Well, to great effort, Canonical did actually eventually open source the platform. And yeah, basically nobody contributed to the platform at all. And so here we are again with Snap packages and the Snapcraft backend to Snap. Now, one of the biggest criticisms that I see leveled at Snap and Snapcraft as a platform for distributing apps is the fact that the proprietary licensing of the server on the backend is just not acceptable in an age of open source software. Heck, even Microsoft is saying they love open source now and they're trying to open source everything they own. We'll get back to that. But the paradox that I'm teasing out here is just because it's open source doesn't mean people legitimately give a hoot about what is in the source code or want to make contributions to it. They just want to see it open sourced. Hoping I'm not raising anyone's blood pressure too high here. I'm criticizing myself in all this as well.
We all are guilty of this in some way, shape, or form. We all have a preference. See, here's the thing. We can have a preference for open source. I'm not going to criticize Canonical for making a legitimate business decision to keep the back end of PPAs to initially, proprietary. Like that's just stupid. It's the same complaint with Snapcraft and Snap and all that stuff. It doesn't matter because really, what at the end of the day, here's what my take on this is going to be: put up or shut up. If you are not going to contribute to maintaining the project or making the code better or translations or the myriad of other ways to help a project or to help something actually get maintained, then you have no spot to say shit. People talk about, Linux and its community are a meritocracy. You're correct. Unfortunately, you can the big thing is that meritocracy requires merit in what you say. So some of these monkeys that like to say what they do about proprietary software and Snapcraft and all this other stuff it's evil. It's not. It's just your limited worldview of your head shoved up your ass is the big problem. So for me, just if you want to contribute, find a way to contribute. It's not that hard. There are tons of ways that you can even contribute to proprietary software. So just because you think it should be open source doesn't mean it's the best course of action for every project. Oh no, not every piece of software needs to be open source. You can have a preference for it. Again, it's about this forcing your beliefs on other things, and this one-size-fits-all approach is fucking stupid. So anybody who believes in a one-size-fits-all approach, newsflash, you're fucking stupid.
Paradox number 4, paying for stuff. When it comes to free and open source software and the Linux world in general, we hate paying actual dollars for anything, unless we're trying to promote a hardware vendor that ships our favorite Linux distribution, in which case we will happily pay a little bit more, actually a fair bit more, for that hardware because we want to support a hardware company that is shipping Linux on their computers. We think that's a good thing. However, paying a couple of bucks for software that's available for a free and open source platform, no, count me out. That is just despicable. How dare software developers ask money for the free and open source applications that they are developing? All the love in the world.
And I will continue to constantly say that if you make money or if you value a program, etc., that you use constantly, that is needed for your business, etc., you should pay just like you would if it was a proprietary application. Support a project. Because what that allows is allow them to hire developers. When I say developers, that's all-encompassing. That website maintenance. The FOSS zealot jackasses tend to have this mentality that everything's free. This is the one time I'll say that it's only free if you value your time, or don't value your time, because what these guys are doing are paying with their time. The least we can do is compensate them for that time, because we can recoup money. They can't recoup time. It's that one currency you ain't ever going to get back. And these guys sacrifice a lot of stuff so we can have these programs. So if I have to contribute a couple of bucks to a Patreon or whatever, you're damn right I'm going to do it. And so shouldn't you. Or if you can't do it financially, support it with your time. Help code, help, if a guy's website is not natively English, make it coherent English so it's not more English kind of stuff. There's so much you can do, and people just don't take the time to actually make those contributions, which is sad. But if you value these programs, these apps, these distros, etc., pay for them eventually in some way, shape, or form.
World to System 76, Entraware, Purism, all of those guys. We need you. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm just having a dig. And fifth and final, we preach about the value of freedom, the value of choice. And yet we criticize the heck out of every open source project for not doing things the way that we would like to see them done. I'm picking on Ubuntu here because they're the most relatable example, but the Unity desktop, we're going to switch to the Unity desktop, a custom-made desktop shell that's meant to fit the needs of the 21st century computing. Nah, downvote. I want to see GNOME 2 be the default desktop environment. Oh, Unity actually turns out to be okay. So where does that leave us? Well, actually, now we're going to ditch Unity altogether and we're going to go to GNOME 3. What? GNOME 3? I wanted Unity back. No, I still want Mate as the default desktop environment. What is Ubuntu thinking? They're going crazy. This is probably the all-encompassing paradox of the free and open source world. We love freedom and we love choice, and yet we think we're always right. Okay, so that about wraps up my list of paradoxes in the open source.
It's not about just being always right. It's about there being so many people that think they're only right. People have to understand that if you take a one-size-fits-all approach, you are no better than Microsoft or Apple or Google or whatever. So it's not just hypocrisy. It's taking away, people seemingly want to take away other people's freedoms yet preach freedom. It's not just a paradox, it's hypocrisy in the biggest light possible. That's why anytime any of these, like, I don't make personal like distro recommendations and all that kind of stuff because I want the people to make their own choice. I mean, you can help direct people that, hey, try like these a lot maybe if that fits your need, but like it's not my place to say, oh well, deb is better than DNF or RPM or an AUR or whatever. That's not my choice to say. What's my choice is what works for me to do this, or to play video games, or to make music, or to X, Y, or Z. Do what works best for you. And if any Linux user seems to have the mentality that that is not the case, newsflash, you're not a real Linux user because you don't value the person's freedom to make their own fucking choice. Which, at the end of the day, for the free software only people, guess what? You do the same damn thing. So, I'm going to call you nothing more than a bunch of fucking hypocrites, too. We love freedom if it's on our very rigid, defined definition of it. Fuck off, jackasses. So, to these paradoxes, I agree. 99% I might have a different interpretation on some of them. But for the most part, I really agree. I don't view them as paradoxes, though. I view them as certain segments of the Linux user base being hypocrites. I'm just going to call it what it is. And we've all had those moments, and we're like, oh, well, that's dumb. Like, I poke fun at GNOME all the time. I'm not going to lambast somebody who uses GNOME because I don't like it, but I'll poke fun at it. And that's the thing. There's a line that these guys don't understand where it is. So, I don't know. That's just my take. I think this is a segment of the Linux community, the Linux user base, call it whatever you want, that is very hypocritical. Because, like you said, that they'll basically log in and then they'll go and comment on Twitter or on a YouTube video to a proprietary service while preaching freedom. Okay, nice logic. So that's my take. What do you guys think? What are your... Do you think a portion... How much of the Linux community do you think is let people make their choices to have their freedom and the freedom to make those choices, and not my place to judge them? Or do you think that what he's talking about it's not hypocritical? To me, it's hypocritical.